right, young scholars, we're going to continue our introduction to reading portfolios by talking about our first reading strategy. We got questioning, making connections, and predicting today. So hold on to your hats. Just to recap, reading strategies are activities you do with your brain while reading. Now, there's a lot of different things you can be doing. But today we are simply going to concentrate on questioning, making connections, and predicting. So, what's questioning? What? All right. So, questioning is asking questions. If you don't know what a question is, I demand you stop what you are doing and go look it up in a dictionary. Good readers approach a text with questions and develop new questions as they read. This helps deepen your understanding. Use this strategy before, during, and after you read. So, as you read a text, you ask yourself questions about what you are reading, which makes you think about what you are reading so that you're not just skimming the text. So, when you question, or when I question, I ask questions as I read in order to either find an answer I need, clarify my understandings, or maybe I even try to learn a little bit more. Now, the thing about questioning, what? Is you don't just ask questions, you also have to find the answer. So sometimes it is right there on the page. We call that a right there question. Sometimes you have to use your background knowledge and what you read to figure out the answer. That's an inference. Sometimes you have to search for the answer on other pages. And sometimes the answer is just your own opinion. All right, so next we're going to talk about making connections. Hey, that reminds me, what is a connection? Let me tell you. Good readers use what they already know. We call that background knowledge, or sometimes we call it schema, to help them make connections to what they are reading. What does that mean? Well, there's usually three types of connections. I'm guessing you've heard these before. There's text to self, where as you're reading, you connect parts of the story to your life and experiences, or the story reminds you of something that's happened to you in the past. Text to text means that you are connecting the story to another book. So perhaps when you're reading Knucklehead, it reminds you of some other book that you have read and loved. Text to world means that you're connecting the story to the real world. So as you're reading a book about avalanches and you suddenly hear a news story about an avalanche, the two together in your brain form a connection. And as we all talk about, when you form connections in your brain, it makes you smarter. So when I'm connecting things, I think, how does my connection help me to understand the text better? Because remember, it's not just about coming up with connections for the point of coming up with connections because Mrs. Bruner is bored and wants you to come up with connections. Oh, no, 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 no. We come up with connections because we want to understand the text. So, as we are coming up with these connections, we dig deeper. We think, hey, this event in the text happened to me when I was 5, or this reminds me of the time my mom did something, or this is like the sidewalk outside my house, or I saw another car like this out on my street the other day. And your connection helps you understand the text better because it means you're thinking about the text and bringing more background knowledge into your reading experience. So we talk about sentence starters, but every time you read and you think, this reminds me of, I know another. I've read another book like this. I've watched another TV show that reminds me of this book. I remember when this happened to me. This part is like that time I broke my leg. This character is like my mother. This is similar to when I fell off a truck. This is different from that time I sprained my ankle. I've had a similar experience when I found $100 in a shopping bag. My connection helps me understand the text better because I know how the character feels. This text relates to my life because the character is a lot like me, or he grew up in a town just like Wilmette. And then this quote from the text reminds me of a quote I read in another book. Either way, when you're thinking about reading, that means you are comprehending what you are reading, and so it all helps you understand the reading better. Predicting. Haha. What's going to happen? Well, when you predict, you think to yourself, what might this be about? What could happen next? How could this end? What do I expect to learn? Are my predictions possible or probable? Well, when you predict, you also look for the answers to your predictions. So you check to see if your predictions are correct. And the answers can be found in the text or through your prior knowledge, which we also called schema. You often predict or infer when you are looking for answers to questions about the text. So keep track of your predictions. You can use post-it notes. You can write them in the margins. Did you predict correctly? Were you completely wrong? Were you surprised? Every time you figure this out, you are doing a better job of understanding the text. And so it's making you smarter. All right, so now that we've talked about these three things, what am I going to do? Well, what you are going to do is go to your copy of Click Clack the Rattle Bag, and you're going to find your answer for prediction. You're going to take a picture of it with your iPad and add it into your September portfolio. Now, remember to mark the title of the text, page number, and date you read the story. If you hate your answer now that you realize you had to take the assignment seriously, now is the time to fix it. So when you are done, you should have the first section of your reading portfolio filled in. This should take no longer than 5 minutes, as long as you did your work when you were supposed to. If not, this is your punishment. So go.